Hi, thank you for being here and welcome to the Kelly Kitley podcast, America's Social Worker Unfiltered, where every week I have conversations with change makers and people who are really making a difference in the world, having honest and hopeful conversations. Today I am so excited, Joyce Marter, who is the top mental health, financial mindset, and workplace wellness expert, also known as America's Workplace Therapist. She is the author of The Financial Mindset Fix, a mental fitness program for an abundant life. And most recently, I came across an article she wrote in Forbes magazine called Why Having Kids Pay for College Builds Confidence and Success. And I couldn't agree more as somebody who paid for my own college and have four kids who are going to college over the next 8 years. And so I thought this was a perfect time to have you on and share some of your expertise and help calm our nerves in our economy today, where many of us are feeling panic and scarcity. And not only are you an expert in the field, but you have personal experience as well. So thank you so much for being here today, Joyce.
Thank you so much for having me, Kelly. I appreciate it.
So, can we jump into how you got this niche? I knew you as a clinician, as a practice owner. I know you reached a point in your career of feeling really burnt out, and you made this whole lifestyle shift. And so I've come to you for personal and professional advice around public speaking engagements and maximizing reaching a larger audience. And so, can you just take us through your own personal experience and where you are today and how you've made these changes in your own life?
Absolutely. Well, I always joke that we therapists specialize in our own issues. So
Absolutely.
I started my practice in the late 90s with $500 and 50,000 of student loans. And I grew a group practice in Chicago because I feel so passionate about removing the shame and stigma from mental health and promoting access to care. So I wanted an insurance-friendly counseling practice. And I made 1,000 mistakes and ended up in cash flow hell.
Hmm.
And it was then that I realized that I recreated a lot of my family of origin money story. My dad grew up during the Great Depression, which understandably he had a scarcity mindset, which a lot of us are experiencing now during these times of economic uncertainty.
Yes.
And so some of those financial traumas and financial experiences that I'd gone through as a kid were replaying in my adult life.
Hmm.
I always think that we unconsciously recreate what's familiar until we become aware and we choose something better.
Mm.
And so the lesson that I learned was the importance of financial honesty and transparency and asking for help and support.
Mm.
So instead of putting on the mask of ego and telling everyone that I was fine, which I had been doing, and it wasn't working well,
Sure.
and I was laying awake at night and feeling
Uh-huh.
horribly anxious, I started being honest with others about my financial struggles, and help came out of the woodwork.
Honest with
And
who? Who do we tell this to? Our partner who's with us, parents, people who are more successful, colleagues. Who were you telling?
that's such a great question. Well, first of all, I told my team at Urban Balance.
Hmm.
And I thought, and this was kind of a codependent characteristic of mine, like I thought that me handling everything and carrying all the load was helping them.
Mm.
And actually, it was robbing them from the ability to contribute and share all their brilliance. And so once I swallowed a piece of humble pie and asked them for help, they were an enormous help.
Mhm.
Talking to friends, family, and it turned out to be a neighbor 2 doors down that said, Joyce, you need a business valuation. And I
Mhm.
was facing bankruptcy. I was
Uh-huh.
really scared at that point. And he said, talk to my CPA. I think he can help you. And so the CPA did a valuation. I ended up learning that my business had a 7-figure value, which I thought was crazy because I was hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt.
Yeah.
But together with my team and the help of the CPA, I was able to grow Urban Balance and make a very successful exit
Hmm.
and make more money than I would have ever planned or hoped in a lifetime.
Oh.
And so I became sort of very interested in the psychology of money and
Hmm.
this connection between our mental health and our financial wellness. And also how our families of origin, our intergenerational financial trauma, our thoughts and beliefs about money,
Hmm.
as well as how we navigate our emotions around money, impact our financial health.
Hmm.
And you and I know the impact of addiction, of unaddressed mental health on financial wellness.
Yes.
And I think there needs to be more conversation around that in
Hmm.
behavioral finance and in mental health because it's so powerful, especially now.
Hmm.
And you and I, both as parents, we want to give our kids financial roots and wings. And so I really thank you for inviting me on here today to talk about college because it's such a great opportunity to practice financial self-care as a parent and also set your kid up for success with financial literacy.
I mean, this is, and a lot of what you're talking about is rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, right? Like limiting beliefs and being able to restructure the way we think about money. And it is such a taboo topic that people don't talk about, right? Because there's either shame or they don't want to feel like they're boasting how well they're doing in their business. And so it is something that we don't organically have conversations about. And so I do find, even in my therapy practice, when we are talking about money, they're like, oh, I really don't want to talk about that. And I will say, money is an emotional issue,
Yes.
that it really is something that impacts relationships and how we go about ourself in the world and who we're connected with. And I think that it is so important and something, you lay a lot of this out in your book about, I say from rags to riches, Annie, in how you were able to pay off the debt. And I mean, I just think of how much lighter you must feel now and where you are today and like changing that trajectory from your family of origin.
Thank you so much, Kelly. And really, my program is both about financial wellness and mental wellness. And I really do feel like I transformed my life, not only financially, but relationally and emotionally by doing this inner work that I think we all need to do and healing financial trauma, becoming more conscious, practicing better self care, accessing more support,
Mhm.
using CBT to have an abundant mindset instead of scarcity thinking, and
Mhm.
also applying mindfulness to money so that we're present and conscious. And you were talking about removing the last taboo, which is talking about money. And many of us grew up, learning that money is something very private, very personal. We don't
Mhm.
talk about it with other people, and that somehow it's impolite, but that is not doing us well. We really benefit from talking openly about money because then it provides an opportunity for learning
Mhm.
and for shared resources and collaboration and ideas and again promoting financial literacy so that you know how to best manage your money and save and invest for the future. And a lot of times we compare our insides to other people's outsides and
My
we're
favorite
suffering.
line.
Right. And that comes from recovery, I believe.
It does.
And so it's so true though. And so we imagine that everyone else totally has the money to pay for their kids' education,
Yeah.
and maybe we're the only ones
Mhm.
who are struggling. And so I appreciate you just normalizing this conversation.
Well, and majority of the listeners are middle-aged women who are navigating this college track with kids. And, I mean, I'll speak from my own experience. When you have a partner who went to college differently than you did. Speaking of my husband and myself, I went to UIC and literally walked into the finance department and paid my tuition in a yellow manila envelope from bartending. Now,
Yeah.
UIC was a lot more affordable then. And, part of this is like, when is the bubble going to pop? I mean, this is crazy how
Right.
expensive college is.
It
And,
really is.
you know, um, I agree with you with having our kids invest in their self and pay for college their self, whether that's through loans or scholarships and, weighing the pros and cons. But still, I mean, our second is in college and she's looking at schools that are $60,000 a year. We have four kids. We were trying to keep our head above water, much less save money for them to go to college. And nor would I hand over money and say, "Here you go, have a great time and hopefully you make the most of your education." So I do agree with there needs to be an investment from the student. What do you say to these high price tags and kids who maybe don't have the option of attending some of these dream schools, so to speak? I mean, we have our kids reach for the stars, but at the end of the day, it's going to be what is most economically responsible because I don't want you leaving college with $150,000 in debt
Right.
and
Nor do
moving
you
back in
want
with
to.
me.
No, exactly. We want them to become financially independent and
Yes.
successful. And we also don't want to put ourselves $1 million in debt, which is what it would cost you to pay for all four kids at a 60K a year school.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I think those conversations need to start early,
Hmm.
freshman year, sophomore year of high school,
Hmm.
and saying, junior year is coming up. That's a really big year with your testing and starting to look at colleges. And I want us to start having family meetings about this topic.
Hmm.
And I know a lot of parents experience shame or guilt if they're not able to support their kids in the ways that they wished.
Hmm.
And I think we need to really wrap ourselves with loving self compassion that we would extend to people that we care about very deeply
Hmm.
and remove any shame or stigma and present it to the kids in a pretty matter of fact way. This is what we have or have not saved for college.
Hmm.
This is how we are able and willing to help you or not. These are the costs of some of the schools that you're interested in. And I agree with you about aiming for the stars because you never know. So
Right.
cast a wide net, apply to those high reach schools and some state safety schools and schools with different pricing.
Hmm.
And you never know. Your kids may end up getting in a school that is more expensive, but they might, like you said, get merit
Right.
scholarships
Right.
or academic-based scholarships or funding-based scholarships or grants.
Hmm.
And just especially depending on their major and things like that and where you live and certain demographics. So once you get the information about where they've been accepted, then it's really looking at the nuts and bolts of the choices and really sitting down with them and explaining how you can help if you can help. What are their choices? What is their fiscal responsibility?
Hmm.
And what are the pros and cons of each choice? And what are the financial implications long term,
Hmm.
both for the student loans or anything like that, but also for the opportunities that the schools provide. And then collaborating with your kid and coming up with a plan. And it can be a combination of anything in between the kid paying for college all by themselves, which is one choice, and then the parent paying the full amount themselves. But some combination thereof, where the kid is contributing, really helps them adult. It
Hmm.
helps them understand finances, understand the reality of what the dollar means and what interest on student loans,
Hmm.
how that plays out.
Hmm.
So it's important to have that conversation in a friendly, supportive way without putting a lot of shame and financial trauma on your kid. Like, well, if your dad and I didn't divorce, um,
Sure.
I'd be able to help you more.
Right.
Or bringing them into any yuck or
Mhm.
financial traumas that you've been into
Mhm.
or been through, rather.
But you do feel that college is an investment that our kids make for their self and
Yes,
for their future.
yes,
And I guess because of where we are in the country, and people like myself, who's a solopreneur who buys independent health insurance for
yes.
our family, and the cost of, inflation with groceries and just everything. I know you're hearing about it. We're all hearing about it. Can you give us a framework today to talk about when somebody's feeling financially anxious, how
Mhm.
do we reframe that to a, let me use the words you use, from a scarcity and panic mentality to a freedom and joy mentality. Because I really want that. I want that for my clients. I want that for our society, but I also know the reality that people are sitting in. So without being Pollyanna, that everything's all right and we're everything's going to work out, how concretely can people who are listening take their fears and turn them into something that feels more grounding and um, reassuring for their future?
Absolutely. And those economic stressors are very real. And according to the APA, money and the economy are top mental health stressors
Yeah.
for Americans right now. So you're not alone if you're stressed out about the bills, about your job security with the rise
Mhm.
of AI,
Mhm.
everything that's going on in the world. And so taking a moment to really honor that and practice self-compassion and honor the feelings of sadness, fear, anger, grief, whatever it is that you're experiencing, and recognizing that those are normal.
Mhm.
And, you know, giving yourself support. So making sure you have a counselor, a therapist, a financial advisor,
Mhm.
or a debt consolidation counselor, somebody that you can talk to about your financial stress and concerns that's a neutral, objective person. And then also applying mindfulness to money. I think a lot of us ruminate and second guess choices of the past,
Mhm.
which we kind of need to surrender and accept and let go.
Mhm.
And we worry about the uncertainty of the future, which we have no control over.
Mhm.
And so I'm a big believer in meditation and mindfulness practices to ground us in the here and now
Mhm.
and to detach from our ego, which houses our inner critic and imposter syndrome and perfectionism and all our defenses, and really connect with our inner light, our authentic self.
Mhm.
And from that place, you will be able to manage your finances with more equanimity. So instead of being emotionally reactive, more financially conscious and responsive.
Mhm.
So dialing it down through the breathing, the meditation, taking those fears and anxieties, like you said, with CBT, becoming mindful of any catastrophic, negative, or fear based thinking,
Mhm.
and realizing that's your fear talking. And while it may be rooted in some stressors that are realities right now, it's not helpful. And so, really looking at your finances in a neutral way. I love the work of Eckhart Tolle, who's,
You are reading my mind. That is my mantra. In this moment, does this matter now? When we have
yes,
that wave of anxiety, it's usually because we're thinking in the present or what could happen. I'm sorry, I just
yeah.
got so excited because
No,
I felt
isn't
like you were reading my mind.
yes. Well, and you said another quote of his that I love. I was thinking of, and I'm not going to remember it correctly, but he says the situation is always neutral. It
Ah,
is what it is, but it's
yes,
our thoughts that make it either negative or positive.
yes, yes.
And so it's
Chills. Yeah,
it's just neutral.
it's
It's this
neutral.
is the financial reality. It separate our worth from it because we're
Mm-hmm.
all innately deserving and worthy,
Mm-hmm.
but it is what it is. And then you empower yourself to research and find out what options are available and to advocate and to negotiate, to talk to the schools. My kids went back after getting merit scholarships and said, I really like your university, another school offered me more. Are you able to match that?
Hmm.
So
And they
even,
did.
yes, yes,
So it
right,
is advocating for yourself and the negotiation piece, which a lot of people are so afraid of. What if they say no? Well, that's the worst that's going to happen, right? They'll say no,
right.
and then you go to plan B.
Yes, absolutely. So having these conversations is also about setting financial boundaries,
Mm.
which are the limits that we set with our partners, our kids,
Hmm.
our clients, our vendors, our, landlords,
Yeah.
our, financial representatives. So we need to speak clearly about money and about our needs and advocate for ourselves because the most we're going to get is what we ask for. And
Hmm.
so this is such a great opportunity to teach your kids about that. And I'm grateful to my parents because they provided me a lot of support, but they also really held me accountable for my part. And it was just uncomfortable enough
Hmm.
where I really felt skin in the game and like I had to work really hard, but I also felt supported. And then when I went to graduate school, they said, you're on your own.
Hmm.
And I went to Northwestern. I took huge student loans.
Sure.
And that was really scary, but it was an investment in myself. And sometimes we need to have that risk tolerance as well.
I feel so empowered listening to you, and I hope that the parents that are listening and the kids who are going to college can kind of look at this through a different lens, especially with all the emotion that's going on for kids who are going to hear, acceptances and rejections around the
Yes.
holidays. And really, I think, a huge takeaway is how invested are we, no matter where we're putting our money, right? Like, what is my ownership? And I think, as
Mm.
somebody, who freshman year my parents paid my full tuition and then got divorced and the finances changed, as
Yes.
you were talking about that story. And then it was like, okay, I had to figure out a way to do it. And I worked harder and I figured out what I wanted to do more quickly because I was the responsible one. And sometimes people are gifted a college education or a home by their parents or grandparents. And I think that that's wonderful. And that also relieves some financial anxiety. But I think we care more when, it's like putting our money where our mouth is.
Well, and now look, you're a hugely successful entrepreneur because you learned those skills early on.
Yeah.
So sometimes those hardships are opportunities for growth and they turn out to be an enormous blessing.
Hmm.
So sometimes we think we're protecting our kids from suffering, but it's really an opportunity
Hmm.
to feel really good about themselves. Like you talked about handing over that manila envelope, like that's badass. Like you paid
They were so
cash.
scrappy, Joyce. A lot of them were singles.
Right, exactly. Oh my gosh, hilarious.
um, but I think too, I guess, can you make a recommendation for listeners, especially around the holidays where people are feeling even more stress and limits around spending? Are there
Yes.
any techniques you can offer? Do you have like a strategy of how much money you should put away of your paycheck towards savings, or how much? I've done financial planning in terms of like, what is your monthly income? Where do you put, healthcare? Where do you put fun? Where do you put self-care? And kind of have these buckets that we fill. Is
Yes.
there anything that you can make a recommendation that could really practically help people as they head into the remainder of the year around the holidays with spending?
Yes. Well, as a behavioral finance person, I can talk to the psychology of it rather
Okay.
than the financial nuts and bolts.
Oh, sure.
And I
Sure.
think that the saving piece, it just like you said, you have four teenagers right now,
Yeah.
and you were raising them, earlier. So where you're at developmentally impacts your ability to save. You know, now that I'm an empty nester and one
Mhm.
of my kids is getting her PhD, she's on her own. The two older bonus kids are financially independent, and I've got one in college. I'm able to save and invest more than in the past when I was in the thick of it, like you. So I think, you know, having a financial plan with a financial advisor and having a budget, including a holiday budget, and really sticking to that and focusing more on the experiences rather than the material possessions. And, you know, again, having conversations about that with the kids and being creative about, you know, drawing names for gifts rather than everyone getting for everyone or
Mhm.
things like that. So I've written articles about that for Psychology Today. People can
Mhm.
check that out if they're interested in learning more.
Thank you. And I'll put all of the links of how people can purchase your book, your website. I know you write lots of articles, and on LinkedIn, I get hungry for the content you put out because I do feel that it's so practical, and eases my anxiety, and also as resources, for other people too, as they navigate this time of life.
That means so much coming from you, Kelly. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And what's on deck for you for the remainder of the year? How are you engaging in self care and, maybe taking a step back, from the hustle and bustle of all of your keynote speaking engagements?
Well, actually, it's kind of serendipitous that you asked that because I'm going to visit my youngest, who's 20, and she's studying in Florence
Oh my
as
gosh.
part of her college experience. And she earned a merit scholarship that paid for a large portion of that. She applied for another merit scholarship that paid for her flight. So
Oh
we're going
my
to go
gosh.
over Thanksgiving and spend a week with her. And I'm really looking forward to that. It'll be a nice break from my keynote speaking and corporate training. I travel a lot, so I've got several more engagements through the end of the year. And then I'm working on book number two. So if you'd wish me luck with that, as
Oh my gosh.
publishers are reviewing it now, I would be very grateful.
Good luck. It is a labor of love, and I think, gosh, to to, to sign up for that book too. I tell all my authors who have written more than one book, that it's like birthing another child. So
Well, and you have four kids. So I have four in a blended family. You've birthed four kids. You could do it too. And it is a labor of love and just like our kids are. And I
Mm.
know you and I are both so passionate about the work that we do, and it fills our cups as well.
Yes, and that is a great place to end because at the end of every podcast, I remind people to tap into their passion and be the change that they wish to be in the world. So, thank you so much for being here. It means so much.
My pleasure and honor. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.